From not really having much of a storyline to go on with, to picking quality over quantity every single time. Here's why the John Wick franchise needs to end. Folks, it's about time the Wickverse is laid to rest. Was John Wick an amazing character? Yes. Did he have an awesome story? Definitely. But it's time to say goodbye. And it's not just my opinion. Seems like the director's been hinting at this for a while now. I'll be telling you all about this in a bit. But first, answer this. With Chapter 4 ending with a shot of the former assassin's grave, is continuing the franchise gonna be worth it? Won't it affect the quality? Although it was super bold, Wick's death totally gives the film a masterpiece of an ending we all deserve. Is there any chance of him coming back, though? That's a tough question. Maybe. But how will that happen? Let me give you a little bit of a refresher here in case you're forgetting something. Oh, and spoiler alert, if you still haven't seen the film. So Chapter 4 had Marquis hunting for our dear John. Why? Because he rubbed the assassin world the wrong way, and now they want him out of the picture. Nothing new there. Winston comes up with a good solution. Duel Marquis, escape the high table, and live happily ever after. Sounds simple enough. Am I right? Now, as you'd expect, John won the duel, bringing him one step close to freedom. But the poor guy fell victim to his injuries. And then, bam! We see his gravestone in the next scene, right next to his wife's. If that's not the end of the line, I don't know what. I mean, the main character's death doesn't leave you much room to create a sequel. And folks, don't you agree that they've said pretty much everything they wanted to say? Why don't you rack your brains and tell me Wick's main goal? He wanted to die a free man, right? His death at the end of Chapter 4 means he finally got that. But here's the deal. John's dead body is never seen, and we aren't sure if there was even a funeral for him. All of this has people thinking it might not be the end after all. Instead, Wick faked his own death. This makes a little sense. I mean, isn't that the oldest trick in the book? Who knows? Maybe it's all director Chad Stahelski's clever scheme. With a 5th installment confirmed, there is quite a possibility for what could happen next. But we're still not sure if Keanu Reeves will be reprising his iconic role in it, even though it's really unlikely. But if the actor comes back, chances are he'll become a mentor for one of the younger assassins, like Akira. Now, who wouldn't like some old man Wick mentorship? There's one other possibility. Maybe someone from his older life will seek him out, just to earn some points for actually killing the legendary John Wick. But don't you think these ideas pale in comparison to the perfect ending of Chapter 4? I'm just gonna say it. Killing John Wick was a bold decision, but it might have been the best one. Wick has been on the run for quite a while now, right? And he's been able to escape at every turn, even though the man's an international target. You need a whole lot of luck for that, and it's gonna run out eventually, unless they turn the man into some superhuman. That and his death was hinted at throughout the film. Did you catch those hints? Many characters mention death in the film, which could easily be some fantastic foreshadowing. Let me give you an example. Remember Shimazu Koji, the manager of the Osaka Continental? He told John, "A good death can only come after a good life." Here's another one. When asked why he wanted to live, John said that it was to remember his wife. Don't you think it's fitting that after he died, he got buried right next to her? Why would they drag poor Helen into the mix if it's not something serious? And this next one is a real shocker. There was a conversation between Winston and John about what they'd like on their gravestones. And John said, "Loving husband." Adorable, I know. But guess what? His tombstone had just that written on it. Here's another reason why the need to put this story to rest. The guy's got nothing going on for him, or the franchise for that matter. Now, before you come at me with your pitchforks, let me explain. For pretty much all of the films, John is seen running away from one problem to another. Even Marquis pointed it out. He said that John had nothing to live for, die for, or even to kill for. But that wasn't true for Kane. The blind assassin had all three. Even John knew about this. The life Wick really wanted was gone now, and there was nothing he could do to get back to it. A little too gloomy, I know. But guys, moving on was the only thing he could do. I guess in a way we should all be happy for him. Our man finally found some peace. Speaking of peace, John's not the only one who got his happy ending. Let's talk about Shimazu for a bit. The man changed for the good. He could have just as easily not helped John, but instead, he put his honor first and had no regrets when he was laid to rest. Sounds like a true hero. Apart from him, Bowery King and Winston too had a pretty satisfying ending. While trying to help out Wick, the two suffer a great deal. But High Table's decision to make John a free man was enough to make the king happy. And I know John's death wasn't something he expected, but it did make the man smile. Not in an evil way, of course. He was glad that his buddy was finally going to get some rest. As for Winston, he got his revenge on Marquis and Kane, which was the best part of all. Unpopular opinion, I know. But the man lost his concierge and the Continental for crying out loud. On top of that, he was also able to make sure that his daughter would be safe if something was to happen to him. So if you ask me, with all these satisfying conclusions, the film was able to achieve what it set out to do in the first place. They finally resolved the whole thing with the high table, and how could I forget gave John his well-deserved freedom. We wouldn't want to undo all of this now, do we? I know we all want to continue seeing Keanu blessing our screens as John Wick, but all good things come to an end. And boy did they end with a bang. Both Stahelski and Keanu had one goal when making this film. John must meet his end. The actor even said, "He has to die. It's impossible for him to survive the high table." He got that right. It's cool seeing the duo taking more of a rational approach with their title character. And did you know? The director tried out different endings. There was an even more open-ended version of the film. When Stahelski tested it for the audience, it didn't receive the right sort of enthusiasm. This means the audience is ready to let the iconic title character go. And now that, in the end, when everything tied up so nicely, reversing that decision, just to have John Wick come back to life to fight off some other high-table rep. That's not gonna have the same thrill now, is it? Also, guys, don't worry, this isn't the last of the John Wick universe. There's still a whole bunch of spin-offs heading our way. First, there's Ballerina, led by Ana de Armas. This one's gonna have our boy Keanu in it, so that's a definite relief. And the next project is a prequel, you know, the Continental. Okay, I agree. These two projects will make for an amazing watch, but that's because fans would actually like to hear these stories. Still, the showrunners need to keep it precise, because more sequels only mean chances of Wick fatigue, something no one is looking forward to. It happened with DC and Marvel. Who's to say our boy John is safe from that? So yeah, an end was inevitable for John Wick. What would you guys rather have? 10 empty John Wick films that have no real storylines to follow, or 4 really good ones? That's a tough question, but it's also one that needs to be answered. Right now, we're just used to seeing directors milking their ideas for all it's worth. And seeing one knowing when to say goodbye is super refreshing. But let's just hope that the franchise doesn't get dissolved into a complicated web of spin-offs now. And there you have it, from picking quality over quantity every single time, to not really having much of a storyline to go on with. That's all for why the John Wick franchise needs to be put to rest.